Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Law of Business podcast. I'm Jamil Jam, and today we have a real special guest. Our special guest today is Shane Closser, and Shane Closser is a real awesome guy. He's a best-selling author, and Shane Closser is the head of Industry General Manager for Financial Services at Yext. He leads all financial services related to activities, including strategy, product, and ISV and GTM partnerships. That's just a short intro of who Shane is. He does a lot more than that, but I want to keep the intro short these days. So Shane, thank you so much for being here. How's it going?
It's going great. Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Fantastic, Shane. And Shane, where are you based? I never asked you where you're calling from.
So based in San Jose, California, of course, Silicon Valley. Worked there for quite a few years.
Awesome, Silicon Valley. I never knew you was from Silicon Valley. That's the tech capital of the world, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of Google, Amazon, eBay, Facebook, all kind of next door. So it's definitely interesting to see everybody riding around on those electronic scooters these days, and it keeps you ever kind of challenged to keep up with technology.
You know, an interesting fact about Silicon Valley. There's no natural resources, no oil, no gas, but it's the richest place in the world.
Okay, let me build on that. Do you know what they're saying? The biggest natural resource, even more important than oil, gas, and gold, is
people.
It's data.
Right? Oh, data. Okay.
Data. It's overthrowing governments. It's
people, right? People are the most important resource. People.
Well, yeah, but data is ultimately what people consume to become educated, right? To kind of be able to understand what's happening in the world, and so it's a really interesting time as we start to think about that. And obviously, some of the bigger companies, I would say, they would claim that as their natural resource, but that could be a topic of debate, I'm
sure. So Shane, first of all, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to do this interview. And I gave everybody a brief intro of who you are and what you do. But can you tell us your backstory, please, from when you started until where you are right now? Just your entrepreneur story, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always kind of worked between IT, various different business lines on go-to-market strategies around growth and then marketing. So it's really the three things. I have 20 years of experience working with entrepreneurs, working with enterprise companies, mid-market, small, medium business. And a lot of times it's helping enterprise customers think about how to attract small, medium business and individual entrepreneurs. So I'm glad to share a lot of that information today. I plan to kind of cover the impact of voice in the customer journey. We're seeing digital is playing more and more of a role in a lot of go-to-market strategies, which is just important to kind of learn some tips on, and hopefully you walk away with a few tactics out of this series.
So to the listeners, as you can see, there's a screen of Yext showing up. So Shane, can you tell us what Yext is, please?
Yeah, so Yext is a digital knowledge management company, and really what that means is if we think about all the information that's being managed for a business, address, location, phone numbers, call to actions, languages that are spoken. I mean, the list goes on and on. What we're finding is getting that information and distributing that out to these places where consumers spend their time. Amazon, Facebook, Google, Uber, all of these different connected devices. A lot of organizations are really struggling, where we found that 66% of all the information that is being disseminated to all these, what we can just call endpoints or online publishers is incorrect or missing. So Yext just makes sure that your information is perfect everywhere so people can ultimately improve that customer experience and digital journey.
So is it like artificial intelligence? Is it artificial intelligence?
So it has, yes. when you look at artificial intelligence, a lot of that is around managing information so that it can be put in artificial intelligence tools. Its primary core is really around the distribution of that information to a website. So we manage the website properties. It could be to a chatbot. So yes, we can manage that, data being surfaced in a chatbot. It could be 150 publishers, which I've mentioned. It could be even other systems like Adobe or Salesforce that you need the information to be disseminated into. And then around all of that, you have, reviews, which is what people are saying about you and how to manage that. And then where we really start to get into artificial intelligence is the analytics around how people are consuming with that information. So you could do natural language processing around that, or sentiment analysis to figure out, is the person saying something that's great about my brand, or is that something that I need to respond to or triage or help with? And that's where artificial intelligence is coming into play. So.
Talking about Adobe, you authored a book about Adobe, right?
Yeah, so with Adobe...
it's a best-selling book.
Yeah, so it's Adobe
Congratulations. Sorry.
Adobe AM and Adobe Audience Manager. So it's really around, two platforms that Adobe has. And it was just, I created it because we were trying to go after a place in the market. We're finding a lot of business users that are looking for strategies on how they leverage technology. So it wasn't a technology book. It was more kind of like a business and strategy book on use cases and tactics and strategies around using those platforms. So
yeah. And Shane, on the screen it says Yext, the impact of voice to the customer journey. So what does that slogan mean, the impact of voice to the customer journey?
Yeah, so great. It's a good segue. So what I'll kind of talk about is voice ultimately, it represents the next biggest disruptive technology that people will face. It's going to be more important than even mobile phones. And what we're seeing is already, just let's take an industry, because it's easier to talk about this in one industry, but you could really look at this across industries. So we're doing a lot of research around, how customers are interacting with, say, voice or online chatbots or online publishers. And a lot of this research is what you see here. 45% of people are using voice once a day, at least in the United States, and it's in 4 out of 5 households. I think Amazon had their big sale a few days ago, and they sold 1 million different devices just on that day. They're starting to build voice into all Ford vehicles. Lennar is the biggest home builder in the world. They're starting to build, connected and assistant voice devices into homes. So it's that, connected car, connected home use case. And what we see, what's important for an entrepreneur is people are, you could be doing a lot of things in marketing. Maybe you're doing TV or podcasts or, buying media, but it all comes down to you get that kind of touch point with them, and then they get home and then they want to search for your name, your address, and how to find you. And that's where, this discovery of information becomes really important. So 63% of people, were looking at how to leverage voice to communicate with them.
But what exactly is voice, Shane? I still don't fully understand it.
So there's 2 forms of voice. So like if I, I'm talking to Alexa, I could...
Oh, you mean voice as in speaking?
Yeah.
Voice as in voice. I thought you meant... I'm sorry. I understand it. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's like, no, but it's a great question. So so a lot of times we'll call those voice assistants, and voice assistants would be, Apple Siri. So when I'm speaking into a cell phone, it could be Amazon Alexa. It could be Microsoft, Cortana. It could be, various different other voice devices, but ultimately people are speaking into these, sometimes they're called smart speakers.
Or smartphone, basically. I could just search for YouTube on Google, and then YouTube will pop up.
Exactly. Yeah. And so right now, a lot of the analysts, I have a slide that basically talks about how by 2020, Comscore predicts that 50% of all search and discovery will happen with voice. Gartner's published some similar research around that. So it's going to be an ever-growing important channel for you to manage your digital presence on.
Yeah. So will Google still dominate, or will somebody else take over, do you think?
Yeah, certainly Google will definitely continue to play an important role. Same with Apple, and then obviously Amazon is pressing pretty hard, with different devices that they're releasing. They've released quite a few in the last few weeks, but ultimately, this is kind of what we see. We see voice being that next big platform shift that is happening. All of these things are still going to remain important. It's just more and more of consumers will start to go to voice assistants to find the answers that they're looking for.
But so not just in a Google search, could it be on somebody's website as well? Because a lot of websites have like a search icon as well. So will it be on websites as well?
Yeah. For instance, here's exactly what you would see on Google. So if I'm on a mobile device, and about 65% of all traffic is happening on mobile devices, it's just up 80% within the last year. And so what we really see is people are kind of doing unbranded searches for, I want to find a certain product near me. Could be an insurance product, could be a mortgage, it could be, whatever services people are offering. And this is kind of how it would display within Google. So in 2012, Google started introducing the concept of a knowledge graph, which means no longer are we seeing these 10 blue links on a page in Google, but we're actually seeing these structured answers, which is, here is a map and a listing of what I was searching for. Or it could be a branded search, a financial professional. And I'm sure we're speaking to a lot of professionals, whether they're financial professionals, lawyers, doctors, or other entrepreneurs, that they would like this online business card to appear correctly in Google. And it could be Google, it could be Facebook, it could be LinkedIn, it could be various different other sources. But ultimately, what will dictate whether you come up or not is this branded search that we're seeing right now, and being able to correctly put your information into these online publishers' knowledge graph. So, and this is free, right? So all you have to do is kind of claim these listings, push your information out there. You don't need Yext to do it, but Yext provides you the ability to do that to 150 publishers and just update your information once, which is ultimately what our platform is all about, digital knowledge management. But, and this just starts to talk about, even Google stance, since you brought up Google, doctors, lawyers, real estate agents. As of July of last year, they started creating a place for you to be able to manage all of these financial professionals and individual practitioners. So it provides some, guidance around, how you do that. So, and then, it's not just people and locations, it's events and kiosks and multiple different things.
Even ATMs.
Yeah, even ATMs.
So you don't need your card. So you won't need your card. You just, by voice, you can take money out. Your money out.
Well, so this is more around discovery. So this is more like, all right, I'm walking down the street and I need to find the nearest ATM. Whether they allow other capabilities to retrieve money from those intelligent devices is more about the technology in the phone, and what's called heuristics, which is the ability to kind of look at a person's fingerprint, eye, other biometric.
So it's about discovery, not.
Yeah, so we do discovery. What we solve is the discovery issue, and that's ultimately what I'll be kind of speaking to today. Is mostly around how do you get your information out there, how do you make sure you're discovered, and how can you be recognized in the appropriate categories that you specialize in, whatever categories those are as an individual.
You using voice, right?
So it could be voice, but it could also be going directly to Google. The same techniques apply to voice and online publishers. So it's a way to market yourself and build your brand and build your online presence out there.
Okay. Sounds interesting. I understand it now. So Shane, but as I was saying, can the voice be put on people's websites as well? Because there's always a search button on people's websites. Can people can this?
So voice really starts to replace people's website. So what you would think about is if you're managing all this information, right? About product information, company information about you, the events that you're running, even reviews. That information will either be put on your website, or it could be put into a chatbot, or it could be put into these voice devices. And so now, when you're talking about a website, you have a visual interface. It's the actual physical website, HTML, that you're seeing and you're interacting with. But when we're talking about voice, you're just talking. It's your voice. So that's where a smart speaker would come in. And there are ways that these smart speakers are connected to the website too. So I could say, all right, great, text me a link to that store location, and it'll text it to my phone, and I can view a map on my phone. So these things are becoming multimodal. I have the ability to interact with multiple different mediums at once. But yeah, does that answer the question for you?
Yes, it does, and it's much easier than typing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny because it's actually 5 times faster than typing. And then based on the voice, it really opens up a whole new interaction model for us with customers. Because you imagine, in Google, I would go to Google and I would just type, find a branch near me. But, when I'm actually speaking with, basically human language, I can ask questions like, what is the best product for me? When do I need it? Tell me the 5 prices of similar products. So based on this, you have the ability to discover where people are in the buying journey, even by the type of questions they're asking, which is pretty amazing. So it's going to open up completely different interaction models for us that we've never had before. And a lot of times, depending on the first question you'll have a follow-up question. And so it has to know the context of that first question to answer the second one. From a website perspective, we never had the ability to do that, right? It would be start back over at the homepage. So it will be kind of this resonant, this new wave of just being able to find and interact and predict information for customers, which is pretty interesting.
And especially, how accurate is voice when someone speaks into it?
It depends. So I would say, generally what I recommend to businesses or even entrepreneurs is start with the basics. Don't try to be everything to everybody. So start with the information that people are always going to ask. Like, I need to find Shane Closser. Well, great. Like, what's the information that they would need to find about Shane Closser? And it's usually address, phone numbers, store hours. Those are the basics. And from there, you can build out other information that, is managed about you. And then the information about your location. Maybe it's not just Shane Closser that works at a location. Maybe there are other, professionals that work at that location that people, and you need to build relationships between those things. So, but the underlying problem is just around how do you manage your data and your accuracy of that data into all these places.
And is it multilingual? Is it available in different languages or just English for now?
No, it certainly can be. It's all these devices support multiple different languages. And so, that's just something that is set up with the device itself. And then obviously you need to manage your answers to those various different languages.
So this benefits. How does this change marketing, especially online marketing?
So I think What's really interesting around this is like, this is kind of the way that we've marketed forever. Um, is sorry, I get some text, but forever we've used what's called organic, which is really going to organic search engine, social, paid or listings, to be able to disseminate all this information, offers or information, into all these online publishers. And they would go to our homepage, and then they would select something like a category page, and then ultimately find the answer that they were looking for. Today, what we're seeing is all of these answers that I was showing earlier are being provided directly into these online places. So they're skipping your homepage, they're skipping all those category pages, and they're going from, say, Facebook directly into that place where they can take action. So a lot of times, I think I would pose two questions to the audience. One is, knowing that voice will happen at such a fast rate over the next few years, make sure that the investments that you're making now into these things are still going to be the things that will be relevant in 6 months. And two, by managing your online presence, which is the information about you into these places, this is free, right? So and actually, you could start to supplement that with paid initiatives that you're doing, and you'll have to test it, because there's no silver bullet for everybody, but you'll definitely start to see probably a higher ROI that'll be driven through a lot of that. So,
and where is your company based? Is it so you're based in USA? I know that's Silicon Valley, but are you international as well? Offices internationally.
Yeah, we've got offices all over the world. So definitely got offices in London, in Paris, in Germany, in Netherlands, and in Japan. So we like to consider ourselves a global company.
You're giving a lot of people jobs, which is nice.
Yes.
You're helping people to provide for their families and loved ones, which is nice.
Yes,
as entrepreneurs change the world. Basically, they give people jobs, because not everybody can be an entrepreneur. I believe 99% of people are better off in jobs. I don't know if you would agree with that.
So entrepreneurs in small medium business are actually a very large segment for us. So this is not something that is just solely for the enterprise. But you can go to the website now and just sign up for an account, put your credit card information, and be off and going at managing your online presence in 150 different places, which is really, really cool, right? So that's how quick it is. Probably the whole process would take you an hour to do. But this slide I'm kind of showing now just starts to show, why managing your information is so important, because what we can see is the traffic to even Wikipedia dropped as soon as Google started putting a lot of these structured answers into Google, because people no longer needed to go to Wikipedia to find the answer, because it was taking that answer from Wikipedia and putting it directly into Google, which is, think about having your business card or the name of your store, or information around products and services that you're selling. So that's really the opportunity here, I think, for a lot of individuals. It's this really easy thing to do to kind of grow your online presence.
You see, what we learned there is the importance of adapting, because Wikipedia, it looks like they haven't adapted to the changes, have they?
You see, it still cites them over to the left, right? So having that content, you're still the authority of that content, but people are finding the answers for that content within Google right now. So it's one less click for a consumer of things that they need to navigate to. It's convenience ultimately for consumers. So.
Yeah, but this is the beginning stage. I'm saying it when it gets more common, people won't be going to Wikipedia at all.
Well, I mean, what people will be doing is they'll be speaking into their car on their directions to work to find these answers. So it'll completely skip these visual interfaces and go completely to a voice answer that you can then have the choice to say, I want to read that, so send it to my phone or send it to my email or just tell it to me verbally. So yeah, it's we're definitely, it's early, right? So I want to caution you, voice is still very early in the process, but what you can see is by managing this information, it's important now to all these online publishers, and it'll be important for, so it kind of helps you be able to ride these various different technology waves, regardless of, when something's really hot or not.
Mm. I was just thinking, we really are in the future, because 20 years ago, we could only see this stuff in the movies.
Yeah, and it's what's I think that the ironic part about this is just it's freely available to everybody. So, again, you don't need any technology to start doing this today. All we provide reduced effort to be able to do this into a lot of different places. And on the screen, I kind of break down the anatomy of search. So you'll always have this kind of paid section. Even for financial professionals, it's basically the 5 most expensive terms that you could bid on for paid media. For those are financial services terms like mortgage, insurance, loan, etc. But and you're getting a lot of new competitors that are coming in with all of these digital disruptors. But local, what we can see is, really where these online publishers are using your address and your location. And that's a primary element for discovery to determine whether they're going to show you or not. So if you're in London and, you say, find a product near me, it'll determine places based on the location address that it has about you, determine if you show up or not. So this is a major opportunity for local entrepreneurs to build their brand. And it's free. And then what you can see is as you start to do that from a local perspective with structured answers, then it starts to help you think about building an organic strategy or an SEO strategy, as we call it. So, so it's almost like a stepping stone to do more sophisticated things online. But data management is always kind of the number one step. Otherwise, you end up introducing a lot of waste. Like I've seen research that says 80%, of marketing dollars are just wasted because they aren't applying some of these really fundamental basic tactics.
I was just thinking though, do people need the Uber app then, since they can just do a voice search?
So say that again.
Do people still need to use the Uber app, since they can just do a voice search? They might not need the Uber app anymore.
So is it? So sorry, it was breaking up. Were you saying OBAC?
Uber. Do people still need to use the Uber app? Since
Uber app.
Since they can do voice searches now anyway, or do they still need the Uber app?
Yeah, well, so yeah, you'll still have like Apple Maps, Uber Maps, Google Maps, Waze, all these different apps, because people always need driving directions, and so now this also manages your information in those apps. So if somebody says, look, I want to find Vern Scott, give me directions to Vern Scott, you can make sure that your information also appears in all those, those maps, map apps, as we call it. So, so it still comes down to, and that's something where you as an individual would need to go update each one of those different places. So I need to go to Apple Maps, update my information there, go to Google Maps, update my information in there, and similarly go to Waze or Uber or if you're a business, right? And so, or you could use what's called a DKM solution, which is what Yext does, and it does, you update it once and it updates it into all those places for you at once.
So the data is not just from internet searches; it's from the apps as well.
Yeah,
it collects data from not just from the internet, but from the apps as well.
We push the information into we push the information into those apps.
Okay.
Correct.
What about privacy? What about phone calls? Do you record people's phone calls? Does it record people's phone calls and stuff?
No. So Yext does not do anything what's called with personally identifiable information. So so as a consumer is doing things in these online publishers, we don't store any of that information. So that is something that is regulated a lot of times by regulatory policy, but also that each of these online publishers have their own privacy policy for. So
I was thinking we're living in the information age, and data is information. It's the most important information, as you said, right?
Yeah, it is.
So data would it be a good business for entrepreneurs to go into? Say somebody wanted to get into entrepreneurship, would data be a good one to get into, or do they need experience, you think?
I forget the statistics, but it was pretty amazing at how many jobs there are for data scientists and people that can manage information. So it's one of the fastest, hottest growing segments, and it pays very well.
Because we're in the information age. Before it was the industrial age. We're going out of that now, or we've gone out of that, I think. Now we're in the information age, information and tech.
Yeah.
So you're going to say you're sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think we are kind of, and I think we're going from technology and information to this world of intelligence, right? So we're almost getting to the intelligence age, where what we can see is that these apps and these online publishers that we go to are using the information to provide intelligence, right? So they can remember who we are, they can predict what we want, they're leveraging the information to provide ease to us to find whatever it is that we're looking for. So it is an interesting era that we're going through, for sure.
So are you saying we're leaving the information age and going to the artificial intelligence, robotics age?
Yeah.
Where instead of people having the information, robots and software has the information.
Yeah, I think what it's happening is we're seeing a lot of automation happening, right? And so automation is removing the friction and effort it used to take to do what would previously be impossible or very difficult to do. And so now everything still centers around humans, but the task associated and the effort to do very complex things is becoming much easier through automation and intelligence.
And are we at the beginning stages of this?
Yeah, I personally feel that we are. I think it's starting. We're starting to see it, right? Everything.
Nobody talks about. The only people that talk about this are the guys from Silicon Valley. I haven't heard other entrepreneurs talk about this.
Yeah. So I would say if you look at a lot of the trade magazines, you're definitely seeing a lot of the news talking about artificial intelligence, talking about robotics, talking about mining information, and ultimately every single place on the screen, from Yelp to Google, Facebook, etc., Instagram, that you're seeing is leveraging that information, which is why we go to them, right? We go to these apps because they provide what we want, and usually they're provided for free. So I think that's just a good thing for us to kind of take away.
So now I would say it's a good time for entrepreneurs to get into artificial intelligence and tech and robotics and stuff, because that's the future, I believe. It's good to get in early. Whoever gets in early usually dominate, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to be an early adopter of a fast-growing wave, so you can ride that wave all the way in, right?
Definitely. Because that won't last forever either. That'll come to an end one day. Yeah. Just like the information age is coming to an end now.
Yeah, I know. What's really interesting is we can start to track all these different trends, like when things were hot. I mean, we can
How long do trends last? 7 years?
You know,
it depends. I know it depends. Yeah.
It changes. So what we would typically call that like an S curve, and the S curve is like early adapters, and it starts to hit kind of mainstream, and then it becomes, you know, really mature. And so what we're seeing is the time, like it took 5 years for mobile, right? Similarly for social, voice will happen possibly. A lot of people are predicting in a much shorter time frame. You know, and then you have, you know, virtual reality and augmented reality that, you know, is a lot of people are looking at kind of as the next wave beyond that. So
I've noticed robotics is taking a long time. People still, there's drones and all that, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of times you see robotics used in kind of manufacturing plants where one would argue, you know, it's become very mainstream. But from a commercial perspective and commercial consumption, beyond seeing, you know, like vacuum cleaners that can like drive around and clean up, you know, after you, it's not quite been adopted.
Sorry, Shane. There's a new robot that teaches kids. There's a robot teacher.
Yeah, so that's a new one to me. I've not seen that one. So.
Yeah, I'll send you the video.
Excellent.
I think you might know the guy. You might know him. He's from California as well.
Yeah, my neighbor, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. I was gonna say something very important, but I forgot. But because we got so involved, we got deep into that the transition, you know, from the information age to the artificial intelligence age.
All of a sudden, we're talking about Roombas and like robotic vacuum cleaners.
But that's we're transitioning to that age, isn't it? We're leaving the information age and going to the artificial intelligence age.
Yeah, if I can find a vacuum cleaner that will clean up after me, absolutely. I'm all for that while I'm out of the house. A little robot going around. That's a thing of beauty for me. I saw yesterday they actually have like a cocktail maker. So you can put the different alcohol in and kind of juices you want, and you can speak to it, and it'll make you your own drink. So that's another one I can get behind. So, but I think that's an area for entrepreneurs to think about is, you know, by immersing yourself, you can start to think about some of these trends, which are obviously very hot right now. You know, it's interesting on the slide. I kind of have a slide that talks about all these points, and what's profound about this is, you know, there's more and more things for us as entrepreneurs to think about. How do we manage our brand and our presence and the information about us?
Voice connected cars, yeah.
Yeah, and it's only going to grow, right? Like it's not done yet. You know, some of these apps will go out of fad and new ones will come in, and so part of our job to be successful is to kind of keep track of these things, and maybe you don't need to worry about everything all at once, but maybe there's like 3 of these that you really need to manage your presence in, because that's what your target audience is.
And get in early as well. It's important to get in early.
Yeah, and I would say just have fun. You know, have fun, play with it, test it, experience it, and you know, and so as the wave hits and this becomes more and more important, you're already kind of an intermediate or expert in doing this and ready for that inflection point in the market.
But Shane, when more and more people start doing artificial intelligence and voice and tech, will the prices to start those type of businesses go down? For example, websites used to be expensive. I don't know, was it not 10 years ago? Say 20 years ago, websites were very expensive. But now websites are basically free. Will the same thing happen in with tech and artificial intelligence and voice? Will their prices go down as it gets more popular?
Yeah, I think you generally see that with most you know, basically investments that are being made. As more production increases, you have labor arbitrages, cost of producing those products go down, and they are offered to a consumer, you know, as it becomes mainstream. And so that is something that we've seen happen throughout all of these digital trends that have come up.
So listening, get in early, basically.
Yeah, I think
have fun.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So Shane, before we end the interview, I definitely have to ask you about your books. You're a best-selling author. You definitely need to tell us about your books, please.
Oh, so I would actually guide people away from those because I wrote those a while ago, and technology changes so quickly that they're old. But yes, I did write them 2 years ago. Yeah. So I would guide you to a lot of my blog online on Yext. Yeah, perfect.
So Shane, you got a real awesome blog on Yext, right? Can you tell us about your blog, please?
Yeah, it's a great place to find out information, especially around new research that we're doing. We publish a lot of research that we're looking at as far as, how often are consumers interacting with voice, or, what should you think about when you're managing a review strategy, or what are the important factors for building my online presence? So a lot of those kind of how-to steps and tactics are on the blogs, and you can go to Yext and look up Shane Closser and find a lot of that information.
I forgot to ask you this question earlier. Will voice mostly affect large companies or even solo entrepreneurs? Will it only affect large companies or even solo entrepreneurs?
No, a voice is affecting everything, and I think in some ways, your opportunity to compete with a large company by being an entrepreneur and developing your own business, all is about developing your brand in that market. So, if people are going to find answers about you on these assisted voice devices, then that is ultimately the name of the game.
Can people also do ads on the voice devices? Is it possible to place ads?
That's very new. While I'm sure Google and Amazon and others are looking into that, it's not something that really has hit yet. And I think it'll be really interesting to track that. And it's something I have been tracking. But yeah, it's I would say at a very early stage.
Yeah, so. Awesome. So Shane, thank you so much for the interview. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Like, what are your future plans?
No, I'll be traveling throughout Europe, visiting a lot of our offices, in September. So if you're interested in finding out about more about Yext, please visit our offices there. And, I appreciate the time.
Awesome. And I would like to thank all the listeners for tuning in. If you know anybody that this interview will benefit, please share it with them. Please also let me know what you think in the comment section and subscribe. And I'm Jamil Jama. This is The Law of Business, and I was Shane Closer's interview. Thank you all very much for listening.